Hey everyone, I wanted to go over my reactions to the Monster Hunter digital event for April 2021, and of course, what they revealed, the big 2.0 update for Monster Hunter Rise on the Nintendo Switch. Right out of the gate, we now know that on April 28th, or if you're watching this video today on the 27th, it will be tomorrow, the big 2.0 update will become available for everyone to download worldwide. This was actually going to be a much bigger update than we originally thought when we actually went over the leaks just a few days ago. And I can't tell you enough how excited I am that one of the biggest things that is important to me wasn't necessarily spoiled, and that's the fact that Transmogging armor is back. Wow, I just didn't expect that at all. It wasn't part of any of the leaks or any of the mentions at all, and we now know that transmogging your armor will become available once you unlock the HR options. So man, I'm so excited to see that, because that is such a cool feature that it was sorely needed. And it was actually one of those things where people presume that because they are trying to sell us layered armor as paid DLC, they were going to definitely make a big push for this and maybe hold this feature back for maybe the G-Rank update or something like that next year. But nope, it turns out transmogging your armor set, which is definitely the biggest important feature for me specifically from this update, it's going to be available within, a couple of hours. So I'm so excited to have that. But let's go ahead and actually talk about the things that they showed off, and I'll try to just glance over the ones that we covered back in the leak, because if you watched the video, you already saw what they were going to show. So that leak was 100% accurate. I just want to be clear about that. And always use trusted sources. Don't just randomly quote people on Twitter. There are people that are legitimate leakers, and man, always go for trusted sources, not just random leaks online. But right away, we know that now Chameleos, Teostra, Kushala Daora, Apex Diablos, and Apex Rathalos are going to be in the game. It does seem like they have retained their G-Rank movesets. So I already saw some people very excited on how they're basically the complete versions of these monsters, even though they're basically just still in high rank, but they're still able to use G-Rank moves. So that's definitely interesting. Another key point is that, of course, Chameleos, Teostra, and Kushala Daora have their own armor sets in the game, as you would have expected. They did show them off in the trailer as well, so specifically the Chameleos wizard armor, man, I love that thing. Very cool, especially with changing the colors of it as well. It's going to be very cool to see just what color combinations people come up with. Obviously, orange and black is the right answer, but that's going to be very cool to see. They also touched upon right away that standard quests will now be giving you the option to fight Apex monsters outside in the field. They didn't necessarily justify it lore-wise, I talked about that in the leaks video, but it always made sense for them to just provide us with an option to be able to fight these monsters without necessarily having to go into a rampage each and every time. Do they have different drops? They didn't necessarily mention any of that. Do they have better drops for those 3 to 1% drops? Hopefully they do. But other than that, no siege weapons. That's actually something that someone mentioned in the comments yesterday that I didn't think about. No siege weapons for Apex monsters means that those fights are actually going to be a little bit longer and tougher, so I'm definitely looking forward to checking that out. They did touch upon the big DLC bundle that they're going to be putting up that now includes voiceovers for your character. That includes Fugen, Minoto. It has different idle poses, a new set of gestures, new hairstyles, new face paints, new music. But my favorite feature that they're going to be including with this one is new stickers. I love stickers, and I'll be buying those separately, not necessarily buying the version 2 bundle. I'm not going to be buying that. It's most likely going to be $20. That seems like a lot of money. But the stickers are definitely cool, so I'm going to definitely hit up on those. Now, they also hit upon right away that new event quests will be made available, and each of the new event quests will have some new features that they include, either new gestures, new stickers, or even some layered armor. They don't specifically specify that layered armor will be part of it, but they do show a hunter with sunglasses and some really ugly texture on top of that with that mesh layering for the rendering on the Switch. But it is what it is. They are going to include some new event quests, which is one of the things that I talked about often for a while now, that they needed to include more event quests, and it seems like finally they're going to start to roll those out. They don't say how many right away, but eventually we do expect to see quite a few ton of event quests, because those are always important to have. So that's definitely cool. Now, I think definitely the biggest feature that we overlooked, and perhaps for rightly so, was that Hunter Cap Unlock is now going to be available. And they definitely hit upon this very early on when they talked about the rollout of DLC and the big 2.0 update, but they didn't necessarily clarify as to why it would have been important. Now that we have all the information, we understand why it was so important and why they were hitting up on it so hard. Because we now know that HR8 Village Quest will become available once you unlock your cap. So essentially, you will be able to fight monsters in the village with their very own intros and their very own quests in the village that were not necessarily part of the base game, and also giving us a chance to just basically tackle them solo offline, which is definitely cool. Obviously, the more quests you finish, the more HR you get. The more HR you get, the higher unlocks you will be able to have. And they specifically mentioned that you will be unlocking advanced Rampage quests, which are based on what we talked about in the leak yesterday. Those are going to basically be the higher difficulty Rampage quests. Now, they don't mention which monsters are going to be appearing in there. They do make specific mention that new monsters will be appearing as part of the Rampage. So we should expect Kushala Daora and Teostra to definitely appear in the Rampage as well. They do mention that unlocking your cap and racing it will give you chances to basically unlock new arena quests and new challenge quests, and they specifically show off the Magnamalo Rajan quest that I spoke about specifically yesterday for the challenges. So those are definitely going to be important if you are interested in that kind of content. And although they didn't necessarily talk about the challenge armor set finally being completed, you would expect that those higher difficulty quests will give you access to those armors as well. But now we get to the part that I love, and this is basically the fact that once you do unlock your HR, Transmog becomes available. That is such a nice and welcome feature that I'm so glad it wasn't spoiled, and this is a massive one for people who, like me, who love making their own mixed armor sets, and we can now look however we want without having to pay for DLC layered armor, which again is what we originally thought would be their biggest push for when it comes to armor DLC. Also, don't forget that your Palico and your Palamute can also have layered armor as well, so you can definitely make them look however you want. But yeah, this is such a huge important feature that I cannot stress over enough how important it is, and I'm so happy that they're going to include it. Now, you would have imagined if that was it, that was just all the updates that we got for this big 2.0 update, that would have been sufficient enough. Nope. They decided to just put up a big list of things on the screen, and just a bunch of things that basically they didn't even feel like covering because it was just too much. So I definitely want to pick off on some of the more important things that I definitely find interesting, that for some reason I feel like they should have made this event longer and definitely hit up on some of these things. So of course, new monsters will be included on the event quests as well, and the new quest available in the village and online. Obviously that makes sense, but it's important to know. New monsters will now appear on the Rampage. This is something that I talked about earlier. But also that new weapon trees are now available. If you do know, I believe HR7 and HR8 weapon trees are not available there. Definitely HR8 is not available, but HR7 weapons are like a question mark, I think. And definitely some other weapons do not have a high rank second tier of weapon, I believe, or something along those lines. So this perhaps means that those weapons who are missing a higher tier version of it with the upgrades are now going to be able to have that. They do talk about new pedal laces also becoming available, so you would expect what, tier 4 and perhaps even a tier 5 version of your pedal laces now becoming available. They talk about new items, but they don't necessarily explain which type of items, but they do just randomly mention new items becoming available in the game. Also, a big one that I cannot believe how overlooked this is that new skills and new Rampage skills will also become available. Now, Rampage skills are interesting because a lot of just the Rampage weapons take the best advantage of it, not necessarily the weapons you have when you add a Rampage skill to it. But it's interesting that they are including new skills to them. So we'll have to wait and see what those actually are. I know the meta is going to change. I talked about this before, but we'll just have to see what they actually decide to add all together. Armor upgrade level will also be unlocked. So this basically means that your defense will definitely go higher. Even just for the armor set that you already have crafted, it would just simply have higher defense because you're going to be able to upgrade it even more. We don't necessarily know what materials to require. It may be even new armor gems will be required, but other than that, definitely cool to have. New decorations, just brand new decorations for those new skills that we're going to have access to. That's definitely cool. Again, it would have been great to have a list of those new skills and what those decorations are going to be, but also I have talked about maybe perhaps those new event quests will give us access to easier gems to be able to farm. So maybe making decorations will become a little bit easier. I do think it's a little bit of a pain right now to be able to make decorations, but hopefully it will be made easier going forward. They also talk about the level of the Palico and the Palamute you recruit will actually be higher, and their overall level will be now capped at level 50. So if you do love your Palicos, if you have a bunch of Palicos and Palamutes just sitting there in your bank at level 35, now you're going to be able to get them to level 50. So, you know, you get to bring those guys out of retirement, because mine were basically just gathering materials for me. You're going to be able to bring them back and use them all over again. New guild card awards, and obviously the option to change the character look via a voucher, which they are going to give you one for free, but the rest you basically have to pay. So that's not much of a surprise. What was a surprise is that the big 3.0 update is now scheduled for a May release. Originally, this was presumed to be a June, maybe even a July update, but now we know that it's going to be next month, so sooner than expected. And of course, they do mention that several new monsters will be included, and the end of the story will finally be introduced. So All Mother Narwa, expect to see that very soon. But yeah, man, this was a much bigger update than I expected, even when it comes to just knowing all the leaks and the stuff that we knew already. So man, Transmog armor, I can't get over how excited I am about that. New skills, new petal laces, new weapons trees, all that kind of stuff is very cool. But yeah, that's definitely going to be it for this video. I will be making a separate video for Monster Hunter Stories 2. I want to give that game a fair shot and definitely cover it on this very own. But Monster Hunter Rise is more important, so I definitely want to talk about that first. But expect a Monster Hunter Stories 2 video upcoming maybe tomorrow. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when my videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.